to the L-5 podcast. We are back with another full feature episode. And just in case you don't know what the L-5 podcast is, we are a movie podcast. We watch a full-length feature, sometimes TV shows, sometimes a collage of, 5 different movies. But the L5 stands for the first 17 minutes of a film that we actually review. We came up with the L5 because we were at a movie theater in the parking lot and we were next to a sign that said L5. That was where we always met and did our reviews of movies right after we went to the theater. So we will watch the first 17 minutes of a movie, pause it, give our ratings out of 5 stars, and then finish the film and then give our final review of the entire film and kind of compare what we thought between the first 17 minutes and the last and the rest of the feature film. So tonight we did a full feature film called Guns Akimbo, which is now on Amazon Prime.
Another schism.
Schism picked random weirdos and made them fight to the death. And the internet loved it.
Nick wins.
Yeah, Nick, I love you.
I wouldn't do that if I was you. You'll just end up blowing your damn face off. Then you'll still be depressed. Even more depressed, probably, because of your fucked up face.
And this was Brian's pick. So, Brian, do you want to kick off and tell us the film synopsis and your review of the first 17 minutes?
Sure. So, Guns Akimbo. It's about an underground fight club and a criminal organization known as Schism, and it's achieved massive popularity by live streaming real death matches between criminals and psychos. So our hero, an ordinary computer programmer, Miles, is played by Daniel Radcliffe from Harry Potter and a bunch of other stuff. But after being beaten and drugged, Miles wakes up to find his finds guns bloodily bolted to both of his hands, and learns that he's been forced to participate in Schism with the game's deadliest and craziest killer.
Insane.
So, totally, absolutely insane. So my first so we watched the first 17 minutes to kind of get a feel like what is our first impression. You have kind of a trailer impression, but then you get your first impression of the movie. So at 17 minutes, this movie is moving right along. We totally, of course, know exactly what's going on in the game, who's in the game, what the game is, and what they need to do to set up the plot. And boom, 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 literally just it's nuts. So I'm putting this setting at a 4. Because in that first 20 minutes, you're just really kind of in for this comic book, crazy, over-the-top, violent world. And I was there for that. But I was totally weirded out by the violence and the internet thing, but it's over the top for a purpose. Radcliffe's voiceover at the very beginning, his very first line was, he was such a dork. And it was awesome. We had to listen to it twice because it was just so goofball. But the one thing that just kind of stood out as dumb is that it didn't seem believable that he would troll those particular people the way he did. And it was just a colossally dumb thing to do. But that basically kicked off the plot and gave the whole reason for the rest of the movie to happen. So I wish that wasn't quite such a dumb setup. But anyway, I just basically said that. So that's my first 17 minutes. That's what my takeaway. I was at a 4.
4 stars. All right, Dana?
Okay, so I'll agree with Brian on this. So that first 17 minutes is like pow, pow, pow at you. You're thrown immediately into this. It actually reminded me of this other movie, and the name of it I can't remember, but it was a similar premise, I think, where they're playing a video game type thing where people actually die, and the audience is real everyday people, who are watching it. And so there's another movie that's very similar to this, but I don't remember what it is. So I'll put it in the description if I can find it. But first thing I wanted to say, because I've said this on other movies, is what I liked about this movie is it did not take itself seriously. It knew it was kind of stupid. So I feel like going into that, like normally I would take away from a movie for that, but because you've let me know this is the plan, it's on purpose, intentional, then I'm here for it. So I thought all of the action to start off, I mean, I was obviously there for it. So I don't know how you could not watch the first 17 minutes and at least at that point feel like, okay, this has a good thing, a good feeling. So it's going to happen. One thing I will say to kind of piggyback off what Brian said is he was a computer programmer and didn't know that his IP address could be tracked. I was kind of like, I'm not a computer person whatsoever. And I knew that. Like, I just feel like for somebody who was supposed to be a computer programmer, I would think was more techie, he lacked in that area throughout this whole entire film, and definitely in the first 17 minutes. So I kind of felt like they gave him a job, to Brian's point, just to kind of make it a convenient thing to get to the plot. But he obviously did not have his job in real life. There is no way this person worked this job. He was just, no. So anyway, so at this point, I probably gave it a 3.5. I was ready to watch more of it.
3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm kicking it to you, Corey, since you sound like you question my 3.5.
Well, just because I know how you felt afterwards, so I didn't really know where you were.
Well, I said 17 minutes.
Okay, you're right. All right. You're right. Sorry. Didn't want to get ahead of myself.
Okay.
But yes, I would agree with both you and Brian. It's interesting because it's interesting we do the 17 minutes because a lot of times in the first 17 minutes they don't give you a clue as to what's happening in the plot. They don't really give you a whole lot of character development, anything like that. And man, this is probably the fastest 17 minutes I've ever seen outside of the film Army of the Dead. Is that what? Mm-hmm. No, yeah, Army of the Dead, yeah, on Netflix, which was like super fast paced, threw you exactly into what the plot and the story was. You get all of that in the first 17 minutes, and I was here for it. There were references that Jeremy and I were making in the Discord of this being basically like GTA 5 video game, or what I was getting from it was I was getting The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger from 1980s, and I was getting Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which is based on a graphic novel and a video game. So it's totally that's what they were going after. And I was here for it in the first 17 minutes. I really like Daniel Radcliffe. I think he has good range outside of just doing Harry Potter. So I thought he was really did a really good job. And then the lead actress opposite of him, which I don't remember her name, Serena. I can't remember her last name, but I liked her too. And I don't know where I know her from, but she was really good. But I mean, it's funny because in the first 17 minutes, Dana and I were watching it, and she goes, "What is this movie rated?" And I mean, it took only just like a couple of minutes. And she's like, "Yep, don't need to know about that anymore." So they really give you everything that you need to know in the first 17 minutes. There's not really a whole lot you can talk about, in my opinion, without really spoiling it and telling you exactly what happens visually. It's a very visual film. And I was here for it. I was at a 4-star in the first 17 minutes. I was really, really enjoying it. Yeah, so let's kick it off to Jeremy, since I referenced some things that we were talking about.
Yes, thank you, Corey. Yeah, we talked about Grand Theft Auto, which is, for those who don't know, is a free-for-all, guns, jacking cars, a little bit of storyline, and a little bit of online, which is ironic because this movie was all about online gameplay too. And if you know anything about Grand Theft Auto, that's what it is. They have came out with 20+ online installations on how people can kill each other. So I was like, this is very Grand Theft Auto to me. I mentioned in my notes. And what they
and hookers.
And hookers too, yes. Yes. Hookers too.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, wait a minute. What's this all about, Dana?
Yes,
See
you can't
me play it.
yeah, Dana has watched Corey play the game. I play the game myself, and that's how they make a living. Look, I ain't gonna hurt nobody's hustle. Anyway, the hookers need love too. In my notes, I put Grand Theft Auto meets Running Man meets Call of Duty meets Twitch. And the reason I threw Twitch in there is that Twitch is an online platform. Again, those who don't know, it's an online platform where people watch games, watch DJs, watch music. It used to be limited to video games. Now it is more of you watch anybody that produces content. And the schism thing I put in my notes, like WTF, what is schism? And I said to myself, that's reminding me of Twitch. Now, I don't know if they got copyright. I don't know if they just said, we're just going to take the Twitch concept and duplicate it. It seemed very kind of like, okay, well, I wonder what Twitch people like. If I work for Twitch, I might say something. But anyway, that's what I put in my notes. I put character development was okay. The story was average, but the action, like everyone else has said, is pretty top notch. I had to turn my TV down. Folks probably thought I had a whole gang up in 1824. So I was like, it's a lot going on. So I had to turn it down a little bit. The number of F words that I heard almost was the number 17. They said the word but so many times in this movie, and it was just the first 17. Like, so those who have explicit language and don't like to hear cursing, I will curse a few times because they said it so many times. And if you've listened to our podcast, we don't like cursing just to curse. We don't like sex just for sex. Like, everything needs a purpose. So in the first 17 minutes, I put like number of fucks is almost 17. And I was like, okay, we're going to see what the rest of the movie is. But I wasn't having all that. Can we use other words? There are a lot of vocabulary words we can use other than the F word. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. My score is a 4, even though I just said a lot of notes. It was good, but that's the first 17 minutes. Lots of action. I'm a fan of action films, but it wasn't just blind action. Like, it all had pretty much a little bit of a purpose to it. So I was okay with that. And last but not least, Stacey.
Okay, so now that we give people suggest a movie, before I was kind of like, find out what the movie's about. Now I'm like, no, I'm just going to watch the movie, whatever anyone suggests. And so when I started watching Guns Akimbo, didn't know anything about it, didn't know anything at all. And when I first started watching it, I did have, was it Scott Pilgrim Saves the World, though, that vibe. But I also was thinking, for whatever reason, a bit later, Wanted. It was kind of reminding me of someone who had just a lackluster kind of life and just mundane, day in, day out, and just nothing going on, really. And so when I first started watching it, media tells you within the 17 minutes, we do see completely what the story is going to be about. And that guy who has nothing going on and then wants to start some crap with a bunch of people who you don't want to start crap with. I mean, this was, to me, I think Brian said that if you're going to troll somebody, that's not who you start with. That's not who you're going to go troll. Is a bunch of people who actually are using real people. I mean, and that concept also reminded me of a little bit of clickbait. I haven't watched it completely or anything, but that whole thing about the internet and people just using the internet or to basically just be just poor examples of humanity. And you saw all the different kinds of people who were watching Schism. It was from all walks of life, watching it and loving it, and I just couldn't really. I can understand it. I mean, I believe people would actually do that. At the same time, I was like, dude, are we really that awful? But we could see that. And it was really, to me, start off as immediately action-packed. And I wanted to see what was going to happen next. It really, to me, started off a lot better than I thought when I said Guns Akimbo. And then I initially saw who's going to play it. He does, Daniel who does play some nice, but besides Harry Potter, I've not really watched any of his other stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was actually impressed with the first 17 minutes. So at the first 17-minute marker, I gave it a 4 stars.
Nice.
Mhm.
Look at us. We're all into the killings.
And Stacey's like, I don't know who would watch it. Apparently us. No.
So, Brian, what did you think after the first 17 minutes with the film? What was your the rest of your assessment of the rest of the film? And then also, just to let everybody know, we're probably gonna spoil this movie because I think there's some things that we really should talk about in depth. So I'm gonna throw up a spoiler alert warning right here if you haven't seen this.
Warning, 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 warning.
So, Brian, go ahead and kick off what you think of the rest of the film.
Well, I enjoyed it. Honestly, one of the things about an action movie, and when you set up a character who has this big life or death problem, he's being hunted, you kind of want to know what is he possibly gonna do next.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not seem very predictable really to me, other than I figured he was going to somehow prevail, right? Because he's the main character. So there were some surprises along the way, like the big, the big finale had some surprises in it. There's some things in there. We can spoil it eventually, but won't spoil it just yet. But there's some things that happen there that that I was surprised by. But basically, when you turn on and off your GPS tracking and use it as a way for people to hide from the people who are hunting you, and then to lure them over to you back and forth, I thought that was fairly convenient and clever. But I think it worked to move the story along, just to sort of say, I need a way for that to work. I don't think we're going to win a whole lot of awards with this movie, but I would watch it again if some folks wanted to watch this movie or whatever. I wouldn't object to it, because it is probably one of those things that you could enjoy a second time knowing what's going to happen. But I don't think I would. It's not a movie I would buy, for example, no. So anyway, I gave it a 4.5 stars ultimately. So I went a little bit higher, but I struggled with it. What is it a 4, or is it? It didn't really sit right to me to be a 5. But at the end of the film, I was like, oh, all right, I'm okay with this, and gave it a 4.5.
Okay.
Because I think it did what it needed to do as far as what it was, and being kind of all comic booky and knowing itself and everything. I think that at least it stuck with that the whole way through. And there were some surprises, and they did some things in flashbacks, so they would explain how they achieved some fake outs, and I thought that was good. Jeremy, what did you think ultimately?
Yeah, so me and Dana are blood connoisseurs. We analyze we analyze the blood and the effects in movies, and it annoyed me how fake some of the blood, some of the killings and all that. That I'm just going to go through my.
Did some of the blood,
and that was one thing that stood out.
Go ahead, Brian. I was just going to say, did some of the blood just look pink and thick like Pepto-Bismol to you guys? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Heinz ketchup, Pepto-Bismol, pink crayon melted, a Yankee candle. I don't know what it is. I just need blood to look real, because I'm sitting here watching on this TV and I'm like, what are we watching? Like, this man got some guns bolted, and there were other weapons. Like guns Akimbo, guns is in the title. So use AK, use machine guns, use whatever you want to. You can incorporate whatever guns, but the killings, the car wreck where he flies through the window and it's CGI messed up and blood. And I just said, like, I was speechless, and y'all know I'm never speechless. I was like, I am very speechless right now. But those are some of the things, the CGI, the effects, and the blood, of course, as I started with. The actual theme of the movie wasn't bad, but they did lose me because I want to know, if this man has these guns to his hand, is he just going to run the whole movie? Is he going to dodge and evade everything? And then how is that going to be captivating? So after 17 minutes, I put in my notes, like, what's next? Like, what is this guy going to do to, again, he has his killer after him. He has the guy with the tattoo who's kind of the main boss, if you will. I'm thinking video game terms, he's the boss, whatever. But it went down a score because of a few things that I just mentioned, as well as it was good, but it's something similar to what Brian was saying, something I wouldn't buy. I mean, I would kind of watch it again to replay certain things, but I would not watch the whole thing over. It was kind of intriguing, but it also kind of lost me as well. Like, it was kind of like fast moving, but also like, what's the point of him doing certain things? But I did like the fact that, he found some stuff that he was intrigued by. He was, some of the shootings and the ending, the last act, particularly, I think like act 3 in the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, almost to an hour, not even an hour, last 30 minutes, I would say, is probably the most entertaining to me. And I wish some of that was in some of the middle scene where it kind of dragged a little bit. And that's why I deducted from 4 to like 3.5. Then I finished with the 3 because of that middle part, the middle act. But the last act to me was the strongest. So it was kind of cool. Now, the ending was a little weak. Again, I know we'll spoil it later on as we kind of talk about it. But yeah, it was a lot of conveniences too. We always talk about conveniences, and I was like, okay, he just happens to be at the right time in the right place. There's a condom over there, and he ain't gonna say nothing. Like, I'm just like, bro, like I know you can't use your hands, but there's a like little stuff like that, y'all know me. I'm very like, if it's something on my screen, I'm gonna point it out, and it's gonna annoy me if the character and the director doesn't point it out. So little things like that, I was like, okay, that's convenience. But I ended with the 3, and I'll go into detail as my colleagues go into detail more. But it wasn't horrible, but it went down in my book. So I'm gonna defer to Dana.
Okay, so I have to be honest and say, whatever my final score is, I'm going to give them an extra 0.5 because somewhere along the way, I was doing something that I was a little bit more engrossed in than the movie. So in all fairness, there were times I was looking away. Okay, so I'm going to put that out. So I'm going to give that. So earlier you heard me mention how I feel like it was over the top, and I feel like they knew that. So that's how I felt at 17 minutes. The further and further it got into it, I realized, so a movie, let me give you an example of a movie to me that's over the top, but does such a good job of it. The Grindhouse movies, over the top. People's legs are guns. All of a sudden, crazy stuff. Everything, everywhere you look, something crazy. But I am totally engrossed. I'm totally there. I'm believing it. It's great. I feel like that's an example over the top, done really, really well. To Jeremy's point, some of the CGI threw me off with the times I looked up and saw it. The blood, that was definitely not blood, especially that last one. I think when he flew out the car, when he's laying there and there's some blood spilled on him. I even said something to Corey because it just looked it took me out because I was like, come on, fake blood cannot be that expensive. It's a regular thing we use in movies. I don't know why they chose to do that. But for me, the movie ended when he got the guns in his hand, because I told Corey, we all just shot ourselves in the face. Like, there is no way that we were going to be able to do anything. I think they almost they messed themselves up. I think if they had given him one gun in the hand, okay. But both, I think, again, here we have this guy He doesn't have much of a life. He's obviously not really a computer programmer. He's never touched a gun in his life. And now that's all he has to pick up everything, to answer the phone, the door, to pee, all the stuff, all the things that he would have shot. And you gave it to us one time, to let us know, oh, okay, he could have shot himself, but that never happened again. And I'm like, no, there would have been so many misfires with that. I think they weren't being true to what they invented with that. So I didn't like that. I thought it would have been cute, and I mentioned this to Corey, and this goes back to the video game with all the bullets, the countdown. We should have been able to just click it off to the side to reload that bad boy. I thought that would have been like that was necessary, right? Everybody could have got that joke. I thought it would be cute. I mean, that's what. So I was kind of disappointed in there, and eventually it just got so out of hand and unbelievable that I was kind of distracted. So for example, when the female character, she manages to go in there and kill, I don't know, 25 men all coming at, like, I don't like stuff like that. Y'all know it's like when people get in circles and one person at a time fights the person in the middle. I don't like that. That's not how people fight. That's not realistic. It's silly. So for me, after the 17 minutes, what I thought they were doing a good job at, I started to question as we went down into it. I knew it didn't take itself too seriously, but then it just got to the point I was like, I don't know if you're really laughing at this anymore. Do you realize that what you're doing just really doesn't make sense? It's not working out. So I kind of, like I said, I kind of lost it as we got further into it. And then the ending, I don't know, we said we'll spoil it and I'll let whoever do it. But that was just a cop out if I've ever seen one. Like, no. Now that he's going, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it. Now he's going to go be a superhero all over the world killing villains. You think so? You really think so? Like, who believes that? And then I know modern medicine is great, but I still feel like his hands would have been in worse shape than they ended up being at the end when they got the guns and the bolts out of his hand. I mean, even Jesus still had holes. And so I was just like, why would this all happen this way? God, I'm just telling
Praise
you.
the Lord.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I'm really at 2.5, but I said I was going to give it a 0.5, so I'm giving it a 3. There were some interesting things visually to see, and the concept was interesting, but yeah.
Corey.
And so, and maybe, like I said, in fairness, I'm giving that 0.5 because maybe there are things I missed.
Okay, Brian, whenever you make the thumbnail for this, I want you to write, even Jesus had
Oh my gosh.
Maybe we'll just put the stigmata up there. Guns Akimbo.
Let's see the count go up, and then after 30 seconds, everybody.
Right. We're going to have a whole new audience for this.
You can put tags in the YouTube video to get people to click. I'm going to put Jesus in one of the tags. You watch. Stacey, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying that, when you saw the CG, CGI and all that, and how fake kind of looked, I was just thinking more of that Scott Pilgrim Saves the World, and it was like the video game. So it was kind of supposed to look fake. So that's what I was thinking. It didn't take me out of the movie by seeing that, because it was already over the top. And since I had that vibe that this was kind of a video game versus a movie, it was more to me a video game. It wasn't taking me out if it was really fake looking at times, and it was. But the whole concept of, the guns on his hands, and I agree with you. I mean, not just, when he was trying to use the restroom, and it was just a mess involved. I'm like, yeah, you would have had something was going to be blown off. I mean, I'm just thinking that wasn't just going to be an easy thing. And I know we tried to put his pants on and all of that. I mean, they talked about it a little bit initially, like him trying to get his phone. I was like, can you ask it, just Google, call someone? So instead of trying to get it on and all that. And it was just, to me, those things were like, okay, that is far-fetched. But again, if you are in the mindset that everything in this movie is going to be far-fetched, it doesn't bother me as much. So it was like, okay, it's gonna be far-fetched. Immediately after he trolls it, they're right there at the door. And it's just like, so were they in the building next door? I mean, how quickly was it before? I mean, I'm not sure how long, and they didn't really say how long he was trolling them, but I mean, just so happened the same city, and they're right there, and let's find them. And then once they do that, the whole concept, we're going to talk about the woman character, Nyx, and how she became the best one out there straight out of, what did she escape? Asylum or something, they say, or a mental institution. And I was like, what kind of training, what kind of therapy was she using? What's going on there that she can go straight from there to being the best killer out of the whole schism thing? And how long she was in there, because then they say that, you know, not that far after her mother and her brothers were killed, she was in there, and then suddenly, hey, I'm the best killer out there. I know how to drive this car. I know how to, you know, stop it so it swings in, and boom, boom, boom. And then I'm going to bust into this drug house and snort as I, you know, because meth gets you going. So, you know, and just, and no one can seem to find her and catch her. You know, it's just, you know, it wasn't like she was leaving the city. It wasn't even showing that she was leaving the city. Same city, and you can't find this chick that's just out there with the weird teeth, and no one's seeing her, that someone can't say, hey, I saw her somewhere, you know, to point her out for the police to catch her. Not schism, just for the police. But overall, I mean, you know, the violence, the gore, the whole, it was, a lot of stuff was expected. Some stuff I didn't really see coming, because when he went back to work, I saw, you know, going back to work, and the friend, I was like, no good deed goes unpunished. When he says, you know, what's it, spot me, or you know, watch for, or something like he says, like, with what? And he does a Nerf gun. Because I'm telling you, I love you, Dana, but if you said an extra situation, I would call the police. I'm not dropping bodies for you, and I'm not gonna.
Oh, trust me, I know, Stacey. I would not have asked you to get my thing. Don't worry.
And also, if someone's coming after a gun, it's like, I'm not gonna shoot that person with a Nerf gun so you can escape. But he does that, and I knew as soon as he did that, I was like, something's gonna happen to him. And we see, and it wasn't her that happens to him. It's the other people, schism people. And that was just, to me, spoiler alert, but anyway, but it was just so out there, you know, I mean, just randomness. It wasn't even, did you really have to take his friend? I mean, if you were just trying to threaten that we're taking the girlfriend, it could have been at that point anybody, I think. But the fact that your friend, and I guess since he has few friends, it seems, that may have made more of an impact for him. And I just felt bad, because that kid, he didn't do anything. I just helped you with your phone. And that was it. And now I got shot in the head for you to still find this girl who y'all broke up with, and still never got back with her. And I died for nothing. So, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed the movie. So, I mean, when I say I really enjoyed it, it was much better than I thought it was going to be. So I started off with the 4. I would say probably by the end of it, because some of the things I kind of expected, I would say more like a 3.5 by the time we were finished with it. Okay. And by the way, my parents were here, and my dad saw it, and he gave it a 2.
Oh, okay.
I would love to find out why he said 2.
Yeah, we have to find out what his thoughts were.
Wow. Okay. I agree with a lot of things everybody was saying. I felt like the film, because I do play a lot of video games, and I have played a lot of video games similar to this, that after a while it just kind of wore out. It was a lot of violence, and you just get tired. Here's a great thing. It's like the main character has asthma. Okay. So I felt like I had asthma by watching this movie, because it's like after a while I needed to stop and take a breather of an inhaler, because it was just too much going on. You know, it's like I can play violent video games for a while, but then after a while I just get tired and I'm like, okay, I got to step back and get, take a breather from this and play something fun or play something a little bit, not so violent or whatever. So I felt like it was just getting tiresome after a while. And then there was a lot of things like Dana was mentioning, and I think Jeremy mentioned, is that there was just some really over the top. I mean, I know it's supposed to be over the top and you get that in the first 17 minutes, but some of it I was just like, I was like, he's dead. He flew out of his car into another car and she flew off of a motorcycle onto the pavement at full speed. Both of these people should be dead. The movie's over. The movie is over after 30 minutes. It's a wrap. And I did like the use of the drones. I did like the use of some of the techniques that they were using, editing techniques, some of the slow-mo that they were doing and stuff like that. One of the camera moves that they did that was really annoying to me was the barrel roll. They just used it a little bit too much.
What is that, Corey? Describe what you're talking about.
So basically they take the camera and it's on a jib or whatever you want to call it, but it's on a device that it spins 360. And so basically the whole entire scene is just moving.
They all go upside down.
Yeah, so it's like a barrel roll is what I call it. And they do it a lot. They emphasize it for things like if somebody's on drugs or somebody is just unconscious or whatever. They did that so many times. That was the gimmick that they used for this movie, like the fisheye that they did for the last movie we saw, No Sudden Move, or the bokeh effect that they did, the depth of field that they did in Army of the Dead. This was that trick. They wanted to do that for this movie. But again, like Dana was saying, is that he had 50 rounds in each one of his guns. By the time he met her, he probably would only have 5, because all of those other bullets would have been either through his body or through his apartment. There's no way that he would have gotten to her with still probably like 48 rounds or 45 in his guns when he met her. Even the girlfriend that he met up with in the car, she would have been dead. Like, he pulled out the guns to show her, hey, my hands are bolted to these guns. She would have got a bullet in the head. Like, straight off the bat, she would have got a bullet in the head. I'm sorry. Or a bullet in the gas tank, something, whatever. I just found it really odd. It was interesting to me too. I was trying to place what city they were in when they were doing this. Were they in New York? Were they overseas? I couldn't place where this took place. There's a scene where they're in the park. I thought that was Central Park, but I wasn't really sure. And I was trying to look at their license plates and different buildings and stuff, and I couldn't tell exactly where they were, or even the police. I couldn't see if they had a badge and where they were actually located. Did anybody pick up on that? Where?
Anywhere city, USA.
Any city?
Anywhere city, USA.
Anywhere city? Yeah. It's a New Zealand. It's listed as a New Zealand film, so it could be really any.
Oh, okay.
Any city, anywhere, but it did totally feel like a U.S. city.
Right? Okay. So it was weird to me. And then I was torn because this whole thing seemed like something that would take place in a dystopian future, but yet it looked like it also was like today. So I'm like, how is it that these people are able to do this? How is it the police are not after all these people? How is it that citizens are not trying to, get some of these people or whatever it is? Like, it didn't seem like it was just set online in this Twitch world. It was also on the outside and very evident, but yet nobody was trying to stop it. And the police force was not really there to try and stop this whole thing. It was just kind of free roam.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. There's a thread in the story about the cops being in on it to some extent.
Yeah, but
also like you're saying, the cops not really being able to figure anything out.
Right.
But how do you not figure stuff out when there's drones flying
everywhere?
All over
Exactly.
And the car chases in your city.
So
like, how is it that you're having a hard time tracking this dude down, running through the streets with guns in his hands?
Yes, and not from a police standpoint, not just from a police standpoint, but from Nick's. Like, how is Nick's not able to just track him down in a second? When she has a tracker on him, that's one thing. But then you should also have a live video feed of him wherever he is. So I'm like, there's a little bit of a disconnect there and not enough continuity for me to believe what's really happening. So I just felt like over time, I was like, this is just, it just doesn't progress enough that it kept me interested. And then I didn't really feel an attachment to Daniel Radcliffe's character or his girlfriend because I knew that they were probably going to survive anyways. And so there wasn't really a whole lot of things that I was really trying to be behind to just keep going. You know what I mean? And like Dave was saying too, with his hands, it wasn't just like a bolt in the middle. Like his fingers were also bolted to the gun. So there would have been mangles. I mean, his whole hand would have been completely mangled by the end of how he's going to be able to be this superhero and continue this story, So it went down for me overall. What I'm trying to say is it basically went down for me. I was between a 2.5 and a 3. I think I'm going to stick with my 3 only because I'm glad that I saw it because it was a really interesting concept. And I do like the execution of it to a certain degree. And I enjoyed it for probably a little bit more than half of it before it started getting a little tiresome. So I'll give it a 3. If you see it on your list or somebody recommends it to you, I'd say, put it on and watch it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to like seek it out or anything.
Yeah. And don't dig too deep into the layers. Don't look for
too
deep into
It's not that kind of movie.
It's not.
Surface
It's really
level.
Not.
Take it for what it is. Know that sometimes you're looking at squirted out ketchup and Pepto-Bismol, and it's supposed to be blood.
Yeah. Even the director, I think, based on that, Brian, what you just said, like they were trying to make like the police was like, Nyx is my daughter. Oh my God. And I was like, yo, I'm not captivated. Like, is that supposed to get some emotion out of me? I just want to see the shooting. Can we keep it moving? Like, so that's interesting for me, that some of the plot, like story pieces in the plot were trying to make me either laugh or do something around like caring about a character, and I didn't care. So I think that goes to show you that each of us, especially in this movie and everybody else who sees it, will see things very differently. But at the same time, like, I don't think it necessarily meant to be as serious as we all just said and Brian just alluded to, but I didn't care about that stuff. I wanted to see, okay, he's on the run. Okay, wow, Nyx is the daughter. I kind of figured that. And it was very easy to solve these sort of quote unquote mysteries or things that were kind of like, I guess, puzzles in the story, because I felt it was super, like, I figured she was related to somebody because that's what always happens in movies like this. But I don't know. I felt that also, like, why'd you put it in there, director? Why'd you put these little things in there that I think, to me, a story could have been? It's sort of like, even Corey mentioned playing video games, and I'm the same way. Like, a lot of these video games that I think are captivating either let you choose the story. So there are like options on your user interface that you can choose different options. That's cool. Maybe they could have made something interactive or something like that for the viewer. I think also video games typically, like if there's a turn or a plot twist, I think even some of the video game stories that are the games that are rated super high do well in that. Like Grand Theft Auto has a crap ton of story along with the gameplay, along with this free for all. And that's why it's different than Call of Duty. That's why it's different than Battlefield. That's why it's different than other kind of shooting games. And so, yeah, I don't know. I didn't compare it to video games, but also I think Stacey was saying this too. It's kind of the nature of the movie. So you expect it. But I think the story was kind of interesting. I was like, like it's kind of like the things that I think they wanted me to care about, I didn't care about at all. So I found that very intriguing.
Well, I thought the reason that they brought in like that her father was the police officer and a little bit of her backstory was to, I guess, make her humanize her a little bit. So it wasn't just she was just a badass who just knew all this stuff.
Right.
Just something to give her a little bit more depth in a way. I mean, this is not that kind of movie, but I mean, I think they were trying to
did it work for you?
I'm not really saying for me. I mean, it does. I mean, I didn't need to know about her father being that, but about when she kind of freaked out at the fire and kind of seeing what happened there. But just a quick question, like when you, when he was he was doing the trolling, and then the person replied back his IP address and all that, and then someone was at the door. What would you have done if someone was ringing your doorbell after that kind of thing? Just wondering.
I mean,
people, it's like, would you answer the door?
I mean, because I'm just saying, I know
when I'm not troubled, like I'm sorry.
I don't even, I'm just like, okay, I really don't,
I assume it would be kicked in regardless of whether I opened it or not. So I think they'd still get to me. Yeah, but no, I wouldn't open the door for them. But I don't open the door for people. But speaking of that, so when we first meet the people who come there, the boss guy, did y'all notice, or maybe it's just me, but I felt like he was playing hardcore boss guy. And then as things start going down, he turned into a little kitty cat. He was like a mess. And I'm using kitty cat to be nice. But his whole persona changed and he was a hot mess. And this is another reason why I thought the movie was kind of silly. We all just heard this guy say, hey, bring the helicopter around for me and this girl we just met today so we can save us. The rest of y'all are going to die. And they still were trying to kill Nix and whatever. Like, guys, he just told you he doesn't care anything about you. Why are you doing this? And then when the people, particularly the one guy, the Asian guy who was sitting in there, who was so excited about everything that was going on and how things were going down when Daniel's character was, I can't remember his name. Miles?
Yeah.
Okay, when Miles was flipping it and like they were getting and Nix and then were, taking over and things were going well. And I was like, y'all do realize, all of y'all who are really excited about this, what they're ultimately going to do is end this. You will no longer have this to watch anymore. Y'all are real excited about your favorite show going away. And I don't know if y'all really understand what you're excited about. Like, I was just like, it's one thing to be excited about the two players upset with each other or fighting each other, but the whole, ownership, corporation, whatever you want to call it, going down and you're so excited. I don't think they realize the consequences of that could potentially be that they didn't have it there anymore. And then back to, I think you mentioned this with Nix and all of a sudden how good she was and how Miles was and all of this. It's interesting because if this were to be something that ever was real, wouldn't it be more fun to pull people who have some actual experience? Because in reality, if we just put randos off the street who've never done this, they would die within 30 minutes of this. Once they saw each other, they'd probably kill each other and it would be over. Like it would never get to these because they wouldn't know what they were doing. It would almost be interesting, maybe, and I'm just picking this out of the sky, but if you have a Navy SEAL and somebody who was in the Army or whatever up against each other, somebody that has some skills that they can kind of.
But didn't they mention that in the book? They mentioned that they compared so-and-so murder to so-and-so, and that he was just an anomaly as being someone, a total, nobody who didn't have any.
Because the guy before her, I thought seemingly was, and he looked military. I don't know what he was.
I think they mentioned in the schism that they talked about the people they kind of used because they were showing the people, and it's like people who were like killers and crazy people.
They just decided to go with Miles.
And I think it was really just because he did that. And it's just this whole movie is just because put this regular everyday bloke in there, and we're gonna use him. Because if you use just regular people, that would have been gone off the bat. Like, okay, he wouldn't even gotten out the apartment. It'd have been doom, police would have come, and if he didn't have shot himself, he would have been shot by the police by that time.
Right.
So I don't think they intended for this to go that far. I thought that they probably thought it was going to be over really quick.
So I think it would have had before it had another person with guns. Who else? If you get a random person, as soon as they hand you guns, like, no, that's not, So it would have done that before if they were actually doing it with just normal everyday people.
Well, it was very interesting. I have something to say. Are we finished with this particular movie? Good. So go ahead, Corey. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just gonna wrap us up if we were done.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything else they want to say about Guns Akimbo? No?
Nah.
I had a magical crackhead wizard that in there just so meet some random person on the street.
Yeah, I was like, why is Stacey talking about the homeless guy? Got you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll say one more little thing, and I know this is a movie, right? It's a movie. It happens, blah blah blah. But I am a little tired of people trying to chase someone else and having a stormtrooper training in gunfights. Like, she had that big ass machine gun. He's standing 4 feet away from her, and she didn't hit him not one time.
Right.
I'm like, I just get so tired of that. I'm so tired of it. I'm like, do we always have to like get one bullet? Should have been the toe. Should have been the shoulder. Anything.
Right.
You have a giant
toe.
Yeah, should have been the pinky toe. You got a giant machine gun and you're 4 feet away from him and you're supposed to be this assassin and you can't even hit him. I was lost there. Anyways, so
even the shots to the crotch, Corey, back to your point, was that supposed to evoke laughter? I'm like, okay, like I guess if I was immature and young, I mean, yeah, shot him in the okay. Cool.
In the head. That is it. Like, I don't care
That's
about
it.
no one. Russ, I'm trying to kill you.
You did.
Say it again, Dana. Say it again, Dana. Say it again. Shoot him in the head. Get that
People
head
gonna
shot.
think we're such awful murderers.
I personally want to. Look, I know I'm going evil, y'all. I personally want to see a sniper. Get some snipers going. I mean, I personally, again, Corey plays video games. I play video games. When I'm playing shooting games, I'm getting a sniper. I'm hiding out and I'm sniping them heads, like Dana said. It's pretty simple. I mean, you got shotguns for close. You got AKs, MKs for close, mid-range. You got like just use different. It's called Guns Akimbo. Use different guns. That would have been dope for me. But again, I didn't write the movie, but I would have liked to seen different guns. Like, I don't know, what if somebody came with a crossbow and said, "I'm gonna F all y'all up." Pop, 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 pop.
Didn't he make a Rambo reference too about like the gun being too heavy or
about being loud.
Too loud? Yeah.
Rambo would have been deaf.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's talking about how loud the guns were and Rambo would have been deaf, but yet she comes up with one of those guns that looked like something Rambo would have had and just starts blowing away like 20 different people. And I'm like, yeah, man.
Did anybody from his office die? I'm just wondering, besides his friend. What she was doing
when she was in there blasting up the office? I don't know.
Besides the boss. The
boss died.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right. Well, that was Guns Akimbo.
That was Guns Akimbo. Now on Amazon Prime, which actually this was a 2019 film, so it's been out for a while. I had never heard of it before, and I'm sure I think a lot of us had never heard of it before. So, but yeah, if you've seen Guns Akimbo and you have a 5-star rating that you want to drop down in the review, not a 5-star rating, no. If you have a rating that you would drop for this movie, put it in the comments below. If you've seen it, let us know. And we will see you guys next time.